And the date was January.
So date changed, but fight for sure happening.
Fight for sure happening, 100%. I don't know if it's going to be in Houston or not, but whatever the case may be.
Boxing thrives on pre-fight heat, especially when it comes to picking opponents. Fans expect champions to fight the best available fighters, not take easy matches.
Most people, so get ready for 2 fights. But yes, and after I beat him the second time, I probably would ask the WBA to let me go up to 140 and fight.
Every time a top boxer announces an opponent who doesn't seem worthy, the backlash comes fast, and that's the same slap Tank has been getting.
I'm not looking at Lamont the way that everybody else look at Lamont. Like I know Lamont is a really good fighter. I'm not. This ain't no Frank Martin. That's all I'm gonna say.
Davis's trainer, Calvin Ford, has tried to explain why Tank is fighting Lamont Roach. His reasons, however, aren't convincing. Ford says the two fighters go way back to their amateur days and that they've known each other for years. He adds that the fight is good for the community, but fans who pay $75.95 to watch Tank's fights don't care about personal history or vague claims about community impact. They want to see Tank facing the best lightweights in the division, not someone moving up in weight like Roach.
Roach and him back and forth battles and whatnot. It's going to be a pretty interesting fight, you know what I'm saying? Because Roach he come to fight, and I think it's a great fight. Everybody talking all that stuff about, why Roach? Because he signed and took the fight, you know what I'm saying? And it's good for
Roach, who fights at super featherweight, will step up to lightweight to challenge Tank for his WBA title. His record of 25 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw with only 10 knockouts isn't bad, but it doesn't scream title contender. He hasn't faced top-tier opponents, and his only notable loss came against Jamal Herring in 2019. Since then, his victories have been over lesser-known names like Figo McRoy and Angel Rodriguez. Fans aren't buying Ford's explanation that this is a great fight or that Roach took the fight. They see it as Tank choosing another smaller, safer opponent instead of facing the top guys at lightweight like William Zepeda, Andy Cruz, or Keyshawn Davis.
Take on the fight. Everything is true about this situation. 1, Gervonta Tank Davis was being ducked.
This isn't the first time Tank has faced a super featherweight challenger for his lightweight title. He did the same with Hector Luis Garcia and Leo Santa Cruz in the past. While both were skilled fighters, they were naturally smaller than Tank, giving him a clear advantage. Critics argue that this pattern shows Tank is avoiding the toughest challenges in his division. Ford's defense that they're just focused on the fight in front of them feels like a weak excuse. Fans don't want to hear about focusing on the next fight. They want to know why Tank isn't stepping up to fight the best.
Your response to that?
a lot of them said that. A lot of them said that, and I want him to have that attitude because, again, I know what's under the hood with them. His sport built tough.
Despite the backlash, the fight itself is worth analyzing. Tank Davis is a proven knockout artist with a record of 30 wins, no losses, and 28 knockouts. He's explosive, powerful, and extremely smart in the ring. What makes Tank so dangerous is his ability to adapt during a fight. He sets traps, waits for his opponents to make mistakes, and then delivers devastating counter punches. On the other hand, Lamont Roach is a solid fighter with strong fundamentals. He's known for his defensive skills and counter punching.
Tank got a history together, an amateur history where they went back and forth as amateurs. You know what I'm saying? It's not
However, his lack of power, just 10 knockouts in 27 fights, could be a big problem against someone like Tank. Moving up in weight could make things even harder for Roach, as he'll be facing a bigger, stronger opponent. Roach's best chance in this fight is to stay disciplined and avoid Tank's traps. He needs to box smart, use his jab to keep Tank at a distance, and look for opportunities to counter. The problem is that Tank is incredibly patient and doesn't give his opponents much room to breathe. Even Shakur Stevenson, a fellow lightweight champion, believes the fight will be tougher than people expect. "I know Lamont is a really good fighter," Stevenson said, adding that fans shouldn't underestimate Roach. Still, most people see Tank as the clear favorite. However, not everyone is impressed with the fight. Teofimo Lopez didn't hold back his thoughts on Tank's decision to fight Roach. Lopez believes that Tank hasn't faced enough elite fighters to prove how good he really is. "There's that next level of competition," Lopez said. "If you don't face that, you'll never know how great you can be."
Out of that box yet. You know what I'm saying? They're about to put him with a guy at 130 pounds. Whether he's a champion or not, you're getting a guy lighter than you to come up and weight to make you look good again. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Lopez knows what he's talking about. He faced top opponents like Vasal Lomachenko and came out on top. For Lopez, fights like Tank versus Roach are a step down. He argued that Tank is taking an easier fight to make himself look good instead of testing himself against the best. Lopez has faced similar criticism for his upcoming fight against Steve Claggett, who isn't a big name. But Lopez's past victories over high-level opponents give him more credibility. For fans, it's not just about one fight, it's about constantly proving yourself against the best.
That's the king behind me.
Stylistically, they're the same fighter. The makeup is a little different, the size is a little different, but their boxing style, the way that they fight, is the exact same.
Devin Haney, another top lightweight and longtime rival of Tank, also joined the conversation after the Davis vs. Roach fight was announced. Haney took to social media to mock the matchup using laughing emojis to express his disbelief. Tank fired back, sharing a clip from Haney's fight against Ryan Garcia, where Haney took a clean left hook. Tank added a caption full of laughing emojis, keeping the rivalry alive. This back and forth between Haney and Tank is nothing new. The two have a long history of bad blood and trash talk. We are already ready to go to 40, bro. While the banter is entertaining for fans, it also highlights the bigger issue, the fight everyone wants, Tank versus Haney, still hasn't happened. Haney's criticism reflects what many fans feel. Tank's talent is undeniable, but his choice of opponents doesn't always match his potential. Haney, as the undisputed lightweight champion, represents the kind of challenge that could define Tank's legacy. Yet, instead of taking that fight, Tank is fighting Roach, a smaller opponent with less experience.
I definitely don't want to be someone like Devin, you know what I mean, talk all that trash and then overlook my opponent and then get knocked out.
For Lamont Roach, this fight is a huge opportunity. Originally, he was supposed to defend his WBA super featherweight title against interim champion Albert Bazov. However, the WBA allowed Roach to move up to lightweight for this one-time chance at Tank's title. If Roach pulls off an upset, he'll face a tough decision: stay at lightweight or move back down to super featherweight. If he loses, he'll likely have to defend his title against Basir Abdurakhmanov. While most people expect Tank to win, Roach has everything to gain. A victory would catapult him into the spotlight and silence his critics. But the odds are stacked against him, and he'll need a near-perfect performance to pull it off. Eddie Hearn has also pointed to the money as the key reason behind the uncertainty of the Davis vs. Lamont Roach fight on December 14th. According to Hearn, the offer from PBC to Tank for this bout isn't aligning with the massive payouts Tank has grown used to receiving. Tank's earnings typically include a substantial guaranteed minimum and a hefty share of the PPV profits. This system works well when Tank's fights generate high PPV sales, as they have in the past.
What do you think of the announcement of the Gervonta Davis-Roach fight?
I think that, you know, it's had a lot of criticism, but it's not a bad fight. You know, Lamont Roach is a world champion. He's smaller than Gervonta Davis. The problem is not many people are aware of who he is or his ability. But he can fight. I don't think it's a huge fight, but not a terrible one.
However, Hearn believes PBC is well aware that Tank's fight with Roach won't perform at the same level. The matchup lacks the excitement to drive ticket sales or PPV buys, making it a harder sell to fans. Tank has reportedly pushed back against the lower payday offered for the Roach fight, comparing it to what he earned for his previous bout against Frank Martin. In Tank's view, taking a smaller check for a fight that's still challenging doesn't make sense. Hearn didn't hold back in his assessment of PCB's predicament. Choosing Lamont Roach put them in a tough spot, he told pro boxing fans. This fight won't bring in the big numbers they're used to, no matter how they sell it. It's not like David Benavidez is on the undercard to boost interest like when Tank fought Frank Martin. Without a marquee undercard, Hearn feels the financial expectations for this fight were. Hearn speculates that Tank might be comparing the PBC offer to the $15 million he was reportedly offered by Matchroom to face Conor Benn. While Tank ultimately didn't accept that deal, he's now using it as a benchmark to push for higher pay. Hearn added, "If you're Tank, why would you take a massive pay cut to fight Roach, especially when there are other options that could bring in more money?" The speculation goes further, with Hearn highlighting PBC's limited leverage. Without a major broadcast deal to guarantee upfront payments for fights, PBC has to rely heavily on PPV performance to fund purses. Hearn said they don't have the right deal backing them, so how can they promise big paychecks? That's where the trouble lies in Hearn's eyes. This situation is a natural outcome of a poor matchmaking decision. Fans weren't clamoring for a Tank versus Roach fight, and the financial strain reflects that. Kenny Ellis, a member of Gervonta Davis's coaching team, has jumped to Tank's defense amid criticism over his choice to fight Lamont Roach. Many fans see the matchup as another example of Tank avoiding the top names at lightweight in favor of a safer opponent from the super featherweight division. However, Ellis has been quick to remind critics of Roach's credentials, citing his amateur pedigree and toughness. Lamont Roach is no pushover, Ellis told Fight Hype. He's a 7-time national champion and has a solid background. Just because people don't know him as well doesn't mean he can't fight. Despite Ellis's praise, fans argue that Roach's professional record doesn't measure up. His most notable loss came against Jamel Herring, and his recent wins haven't been against high-profile opponents.
Lamont and Tank have history. What can you tell us about their history and how that's going to play into the fight come fight night?
They got average history for maybe 2 or 3 times. Tank being the winner, they sparred a few times. Tank got the best of the sparring. They're just bigger and stronger now, you know? Older.
Critics point to the deeper talent pool at lightweight, highlighting names like Andy Cruz, Keyshawn Davis, and William Zepeda, fighters they believe Tank should be taking on instead. Ellis dismissed the notion that Tank is cherry-picking opponents, insisting that some of the big names fans want turned down offers to fight him. It's not Tank's fault, Ellis said. The so-called big names price themselves out. Tank just wants to fight. Ellis also touched on Tank's mindset, claiming that the criticism doesn't bother him. He just likes to fight, Ellis said. If the marquee names want to step up one day, they can get it. If not, life goes on. This laid-back attitude hasn't sat well with fans who feel that Tank is underachieving. They argue that as one of the sport's biggest stars, Tank should be taking on the toughest challenges to prove his greatness. By continually opting for opponents like Roach, who lacks the power and resume of top-tier lightweights, Tank is seen as prioritizing easier fights over legacy-defining moments. Oscar De La Hoya has a different perspective on Gervonta Davis. The boxing legend sees Tank as a rare fighter who embraces risk, and he believes that mindset is why Tank has become a superstar. In an appearance on the Club Shay Shay YouTube channel, De La Hoya praised Tank's fearlessness. He's a beast. Pure and simple, De La Hoya said. The reason Tank is great is because he fights. He doesn't just show up, he fights. For De La Hoya, this willingness to take risks and accept the possibility of getting knocked out is what separates Tank from others in the sport. When you fight, you're going to get hit, maybe even knocked out, but Tank doesn't fear that. That's why fans love him. Paulie Malignaggi, a respected voice in boxing and former welterweight champion, shared his thoughts on the looming Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach fight, highlighting what he sees as missed opportunities and the questionable nature of the bout as a pay-per-view event. Speaking on ProBox TV, Malignaggi described the matchup as an opportunity for Roach to raise his profile but questioned its merit in the context of Davis's career. Roach is a solid fighter, but he's not at the level of notoriety to warrant a fight like this being on pay-per-view, said Malignaggi. If he were a bona fide champion who'd made several title defenses, maybe this would make sense. Instead, he categorized the fight as a way for Davis to cement his brand while fans are left wanting. The lightweight division is stacked with talent, making Davis's choice of opponent a point of contention. Fighters like William Zepeda, Floyd Schofield, Keyshawn Davis, Raymond Morala, and WBO title holder Shakur Stevenson present exciting options. However, these matchups remain unexplored as Davis pulls Roach, a junior lightweight, up in weight for the December 14th clash. Malignaggi wasn't alone in his criticism. Fellow boxing analyst Chris Algieri called the fight a hard pill to swallow during ProBox TV's Top Stories. Malignaggi elaborated, questioning why Davis and his team would look outside the lightweight division when there are so many promising and competitive options within it. From a boxing perspective, why pull up a guy from other weight classes when there are fresh, young lightweights and plenty of viable fights for Davis?
DC and Baltimore guys don't like each other. You know what I mean? So it was a DC guy that I got into it with. You know what I mean? So one of the older guys named Dana, he basically told me.
Still, Malignaggi acknowledged Roach's skills, describing him as a crafty little veteran with a solid chin. He even suggested that Roach's abilities could cause problems for Davis if he brings his best game. Roach's durability and skill set might allow him to make the fight competitive, especially if he can bank early rounds before Davis gains momentum. If Roach wins, it'd be the upset of the year. Is that what we want on pay-per-view? Malignaggi asked. Algieri shared the same point, pointing out that Davis often starts slow and relies on his knockout power to turn the tide. He suggested that if Roach could hustle in the early rounds and avoid Davis's heavy shots late in the fight, an upset might not be entirely out of the question. If Roach can outwork and outmaneuver Davis early on and survive the late rounds, it's possible we could see an upset, Algieri said.
Chill out, like, nah.
DC and Baltimore don't fuck with each other.
Yeah, they don't. One thing about it, the city gonna show up for you.
Even with these possibilities, both commentators ultimately expect Davis's power, pressure, and mental toughness to overwhelm Roach. Algieri predicted that Davis's relentless style would wear Roach down, saying the physical and mental stress of facing a bigger, harder-hitting opponent like Davis would prove too much for the junior lightweight. On the media front, boxing analyst Tim Bradley also weighed in on the Davis-Roach matchup, expressing frustration over what he sees as a recurring pattern in Davis's career. Bradley pulled no punches in labeling the fight as another example of PCBS overly protective matchmaking for Davis.
Tank and Lamont Roach. Is that the right opponent for Tank?
I don't know why everybody is kind of sleeping on Lamont, but he has a decorated amateur career too. He's a very petty kid. He's very skilled. Tank is Tank, you know. And when I say Tank is Tank, I mean like he's a bad man. He can fight and stuff. I know we had our dispute back and forth, whatever. At the end of the day, if we talk about just boxing, he's a good fighter, and I look forward to watching.
Tank's gonna do what Tank's gonna do, Bradley said during an interview with Fight Hype. Tank's gonna do what he's always done. Fans aren't stupid. You got Tank supporters saying, this guy ducked him. That guy didn't want to fight, but come on, look at the facts. Bradley pointed out that before Shakur Stevenson signed to fight Joe Cordina, there was an ideal window for Davis to negotiate a fight with Stevenson, a high-profile bout that fans had been clamoring for. Instead, Davis's team opted for a safer route.
Lamont Roach took a lot of shots from McCory his last fight. If Tank were to land those, he's going to get put to sleep. He lost to Jamel Herring. Hector Garcia landed some good shots on him. Tank went ahead and just made that dude blind. We don't know if Hector Garcia can see right now. I would respect this more if Tank was going down to...
It always seems like Tank, this isn't just me hating. This is factual, who was the last true top-level fighter he faced without pulling them down in weight or stacking the deck in his favor, Bradley questioned. Look at what he did with Ryan Garcia before that. Who was it? Pedraza? That was years ago, man. Bradley was particularly critical of Davis's fight with Frank Martin earlier this year, calling Martin green and likening Davis to a 30-year-old prospect who has yet to prove himself against the very best in his division. Fight the best, fight Shakur, fight Lomachenko. These are the fights people want to see, Bradley said. Instead, it's been years of PBC keeping him in protective custody.
My thing is, Gervonta Tank Davis only has, after this, 5 fights left. We're running out of time. I want some incredible things to happen.
Bradley didn't stop there. He took aim at PCBS' overall strategy, comparing their matchmaking to makeup that covers flaws. They've built a hell of a product, but matchmaking can cover up a lot of imperfections, Bradley said. What are you scared of? Put Tank in there with a lion. If he knocks out a lion, now we're talking despite the critiques. There's no denying Davis's star power. His undefeated record and knockout ratio make him one of the sport's most exciting fighters. But the narrative surrounding his opposition has become a sticking point. Fans and analysts are calling for him to step into the ring with the top contenders at lightweight to solidify his legacy.
Ooh, comments? Hey, check this out, dog. Listen to me. I don't watch. I don't look at. I don't follow social media. I don't know how to work it. I don't follow social media. I don't care what anybody say. I don't care what Tank say because his opinion don't matter. I'm in the Hall of Fame, Tank. You know what I'm saying? But I will tell you this.
Boxer. But everybody be talking shit to Gervonta, it don't be coming out good for them, my nigga.
For many, it's an opportunity for Roach to gain exposure and test his limits. For others, it's another disappointing chapter in a career that could and should be marked by riskier and more competitive fights. While Roach has the skills and heart to make it an interesting fight, most expect Davis's power and experience to carry him to another victory. Still, the calls for Davis to face the best in his division are growing louder. Whether or not those fights materialize remains to be seen. What do you think? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more.